In a village nearby, Aisha Bakari Gombe lives with her family. In her part-time job as a seamstress, she works with hands and feet in creative concentration, at peace, away from the violence that prowls in the countryside. But the rhythm of the sewing machine is only one facet of her world. Aisha knows the Sambisa well. It was there, as a young girl, that she was initiated in a long-standing family tradition.
Iyayena mafarauta ne, su ma iyayen nawa iyayen su ma mafarauta ne. Ni kuma ba na so al'adarmu na gargajiya ya bace ni ma shine dalilin da yasa nake.
Boko Haram raided her village 3 times before the Nigerian government allowed people to fight back on their own. Now, instead of hunting antelope, baboons, and birds, Aisha goes after a different prey: Boko Haram militants. She is part of a group of hunters who go out in search of insurgents, ready to fight if the situation arises.
Gaskiya Boko Haram dai ba mutum bane. To Boko Haram ne ya isa zai kama mutum da ransa, ya kama shi ya yanka shi da zarton da ake yanka katako. Boko Haram zai kama mace da ciki, ya yanka ta, ya fidda da a cikin cikinta, ya jefar da shi. Boko Haram zai kama yaro jinjiri, ya karya wuyansa ya jefar, ya kama yara ƙanana ya murɗa wuya ya jefa a kogi.
At the start of their patrol, the hunters take part in spiritual rituals. They believe it will protect against enemy bullets and other dangers in the forest.
Akwai abubuwa irin namu na gargajiya waɗanda muke amfani da su. Wani muna amfani da shi don mu sha, wani mu shafa, wani mu sheƙa, wani mu yi hayaƙi, har ma wanka akwai. To mukan yi su ne kafin mu fita. To ai dajin dama shi muka riga muka saba. Babu wani abun da yake ba mu tsoro a cikin daji. Duk lokacin da muka shirya in za mu fita, ko dare ko rana ne shiganta muke yi babu fargaba.
Aisha and her team not only search for insurgents, they're also on the lookout for captives fleeing from Boko Haram camps. Their stories can be heartbreaking.
Akwai matar da muka bari yanzu haka tana kam namu mu a inda muka yi sansanin mu a cikin garin Lasa. Suka zo sace ta, suka sace ta da yara 6. Da aka tafi da su, aka je aka ajiye su a can sun kai watanni suna wajen. Ranar da Allah ya taimake ta ya bata nasarar za ta gudu ta dawo. To su wayannan 'yan ƙanana guda 2, ɗaya ta goya, ɗaya kuma ta ɗauka ta rataya a kafaɗanta. Haka ta haƙura da wayancan saura guda 4, ta ɗauko 2 ta kamo hanya ta dawo.
Aisha's efforts fighting Boko Haram earned her the respect of fellow villagers. They call her the Queen Hunter.
Gaskiya ba zan iya sani ba, don an kuɓutar da yawa. Na kwanakin nan ko kuma in ce na shekaran jiya mun kuɓutar da 9.
Later that day, Aisha and her band apprehended 3 Boko Haram fighters. They delivered them to authorities by truck. A commotion of curious villagers parading behind them. Success like this inspires her to continue the work, despite the danger.
Ani dai ina son duniya ta sani. Aikin da muke yi dai mu aiki ne na ceto da nema wa ƙasar mu zaman lafiya. Zaman lafiya nake son wa Najeriya. Ina so in ga Najeriya ta zauna lafiya kamar yadda sauran ƙasashe suke zaune lafiya.
They appear in seemingly endless streams, fleeing terror, bringing with them only what they can carry. Day and night, they've lost their homes, their farms, their livestock, In the worst cases, their children. And for now, they've no hope of returning. The world knows Boko Haram mostly through reports of bombings, kidnappings, and suicide attacks. But the insurgency has also made millions of Nigerians homeless and laid waste to the rural economy that long sustained the region. In village after village, devastation.
Area of the Boko Haram, they are rushing to this place. So that is the market. 1,000 houses burned.
Already destroyed.
Already distressed. Our market is distressed. We will not get market. We will not get eat food.
Hamam Mbombo has survived 2 Boko Haram attacks. The first time, they took his crops. The second time, they burned his farm to the ground.
Da aka kore mu a 2013 muka tafi, to haka wannan abin ya salwanta ban samu na girbe ba. To shekara da ya sake zagayowa kuma, bunni ya taso, ya yi kyau, amma kuma shi ma har yanzu ban sake samu in girba ba. 2015 kenan. To daga nan kuma ban sake aiki a gonan ba. Rashin aiki a wannan gonakin ba ni kaɗai ba, manoma yan uwana ma duka. Gaskiya ya dagula mana rayuwarmu.
Farmers are not the only ones suffering from Boko Haram's plundering. These herders narrowly escaped a Boko Haram surprise attack with their cattle. They're aware that next time, they may not be so lucky.
Babu wata hanya da za ku iya bi ne ku sake kwato su.
Ina za mu samu hanyar bi. Mu ba mu da komai, su suna da bindiga.
What's caused this crisis is people being terrorized and having to run away from the place they've been able to work for a long time. We were told that farmers do have seeds. We were told that farmers do still have some of the tools. What they don't have is the confidence to go back to their land because they're worried that if they're a man, they'll be shot. They're worried that if they're a woman, they'll be raped or kidnapped. So the key issue here is security.
Although the Nigerian military has recaptured and garrisoned some larger towns, the Northeast's breadbasket remains a free fire zone. Much of the food production infrastructure, granaries, markets, wells, is in ruins. Rebuilding it will take months, if not years. Northeast Nigeria borders Lake Chad, a vast inland sea supplying fresh water to about 70 million people in 4 countries. Fishing forms an integral part of household economies in the region. But since the insurgency, Boko Haram has controlled fishing by demanding a tax from those plying their trade. As a result, many fishermen have fled, choking off the once thriving industry. Most are reluctant to talk openly about the insurgents, fearing reprisals.
Shakka babu, 'yan Boko Haram sun kasara wannan sana'ar tamu gabaki ɗayanta. Domin ka kula duk tafkin Chadin nan gabaki ɗaya duk wani mu'amala da ake yi wato biyo bayan kifi ne. Watanni 4 na shekara wanda an fi kama kifi a cikin su irin watannin zafi. To a lokacin ana iya fitar da trailer 70, 50, 60 a rana ɗaya. To amma kaga yanzu ko ɗaya ba a fitarwa.
Deprived of their livelihoods, farmers, herders, and fishermen, along with their families, wind up in the camps for the displaced that have sprung up across the Northeast. Official estimates put the number forced to leave their homes at 2 million or more. For years, the lack of security kept many humanitarian agencies from entering the region. Now that more military are present, they are returning to learn that the crisis is much worse than they predicted.
I think a lot of humanitarian aid workers are saying that they didn't realize the situation was that bad. Some have described it as famine-like conditions. Unfortunately, if it was addressed sooner, it wouldn't have gotten to the extent that it is now.
According to the United Nations, more than $1 billion in humanitarian aid was needed to help 8.5 million people in the Northeast and Lake Chad region in 2017, most of it for food.
Children are particularly vulnerable because their bodies are growing, their minds are growing and developing, and if they don't have the nutrition that they need in the first 2 years of life, that has lifelong consequences for them. So a child, who's 1 year old, who doesn't get enough to eat, will see her growth is stunted. She will have possibly trouble in, cognitive development of her brain. That'll affect her performance in school later on. It'll affect her ability to earn a living later on. So she will be paying the price for our failure for the rest of her life if we can't get that food and nutritional support to her now.
Without continued aid or a rebound in agriculture, Nigerians may be on the edge of famine for years to come. The emotional and psychological damage of the war has deep consequences and may pose the most difficult challenge of Nigeria's recovery.
Ba mu da sani a lokaci daya bokwaran suka shiga cikin garinmu suka fara kashe-kashe ba mu da labarin komai ranar Asabar misalin karfe 9.
Kanin mama na guda 3. Mijin kani na guda 1. Guda 4 a take sun kashe.
To da muna zama a wurin sun kawo wani mutum sun yanka shi a idonmu.
After 8 years of war, these stories have become all too common.
When we're coming out of insurgency, it's one thing to rebuild homes and to rebuild hospitals and to rebuild schools, but the most important thing is to rebuild people.
Dr. Fatima Akilu leads the Neem Foundation, a non-profit that is taking on the country's psychological reconstruction. The work focuses on Nigerians who are homeless, suffered violence and trauma, or who were captives under Boko Haram. By sharing their stories, they help heal one another.
Our main objective is to hear their experience. We want to share our experience together so that we can see how we can support ourselves.
What we're looking at is their mental health status, their post-traumatic stress disorder needs, depression, anxiety, insomnia, psychosomatic symptoms.
These group sessions run for a month to build trust. Counselors help with translation.
They left anytime she remember her son. She can't sleep because she didn't even see the body of her son.
One woman told of losing multiple family members.
When there was one attack in Maiduguri here, a suicide bomber came to where they were staying, and that was how her husband was killed. That she has a younger brother too. Boko Haram killed him. That she's really feeling better ever since she started coming to this place. And she's very grateful.
The counselors use cognitive therapy to help victims control traumatic flashbacks.
We focus on trying to get them to alter their negative thinking about the event that has happened. We try to teach them thought-stopping behaviors, and we try to teach them resilience through group.
2 months after their initial therapy, members of the group reconvene to see whether they're continuing to cope.
That in this gathering, if you come to this gathering, after hearing everybody's experience, you realize that your own problem, somebody has a bigger problem than your own.
Dr. Akilu says victims can cure these deep emotional wounds. It just takes time.
As a psychologist, I have a role that I can play, and I can bring people together to show that there is an alternative way.
Rebuilding the lives of Boko Haram's victims is only part of the healing process. Another challenge is finding alternatives for those who perpetrated the violence. These men are Boko Haram fighters who have recently surrendered. They're about to enter Operation Safe Corridor, where insurgents who've renounced Boko Haram can undergo rehabilitation while in prison.
It's a federal government initiative aimed at de-radicalizing, rehabilitating, and reintegrating willing and surrendered Boko Haram back into the society.
The men will undergo 3 months of counseling to dispel their indoctrination under Boko Haram. Dr. Akilu helped start an earlier de-radicalization effort in Nigeria. All these programs work on multiple levels.
One would be ideology, because that was what they used to recruit. Second was to look at their mental states, so we had psychological engagement. That we felt art was important because they were so against art, and art allows somebody to express themselves in ways unexpected to that person. And we taught them a skill, a trade, different for different people, and we also gave them an education for those who wanted it.
Under de-radicalization, the Boko Haram militants are classified as repentant fighters. VOA was allowed to visit one class, but authorities refused to allow cameras inside to protect ex-fighters from being identified.
So we are hoping that when you leave here, which we hope will be very soon, you will all go back and all the skills that is being impacted now, you will use them to the benefit of your families and to the benefit of Nigeria.
In terms of our de-radicalization, the positive there for us is there are more and more of the ex-combatants actually disengaging. Disengagement is key.
So I'd admonish all of you to take this program very, very seriously.
There is a debate about whether de-radicalization works or is appropriate. Among those who took part in Dr. Akilu's initial program was an imam who joined Boko Haram in its early stages, then preached against Western education. Caught by Nigerian forces, he was sent to prison with other fighters.
aka kai mu kurkuku da sauransu haka to a lokacin muna jin cewa kawai abun ba zai taba bari ba za a bar shi ba za a ci gaba da yi kuma mu ma muna jin a lokacin cewa ba za mu bari ba ko mun fita za mu ci gaba da yin abin da muke.
That was before Dr. Akilu brought in Quranic scholars who persuaded him that Boko Haram manipulated key texts in the Holy Book to suit their agenda.
When we started working with Boko Haram members, I think for me the biggest surprise was how little knowledge they had of the Quran itself. And even including the chief imam, they had memorized parts of the Quran, but without context.
A lokacin akwai wasu malamai da suke ziyartar mu. To sai akwai program ne musamman nake jin gwamnatin tarayya ta shirya wanda nake jin ta tura shi zuwa ga to yayi tasiri da yawa daga cikin wayanda aka kama su suke hannu din. Duk a lokacin da aka sake mu din ba wani mutum ɗaya da yanzu ce maka mutum ɗaya da yanzu ya koma ya je linkin da wayannan mutane.
But whether such success can be repeated on the scale that's needed is unclear.
The problem is if it doesn't work, then what? We must have something on the table that works. At the moment, it is de-radicalization. Look, the reality is that these people, they are Nigerians. And the fundamental question we should ask, to what extent did the Nigerian society contribute for them to become what they have become? And what should the Nigerian society do to get them back to living normal lives?
The conflict with Boko Haram casts northeastern Nigeria as a dark, dangerous place overcome with suffering and need. Months after returning home to Maiduguri in Borno State, Fati Abubakar set about to change that image, armed with her camera.
We're usually bombarded with images of, people, dead bodies on the street, sites of bomb blasts, some children in the hospital. It's just a complete, portrayal where you just think that there are no survivors of this conflict. There are different kind of stories that I felt that were completely neglected, and I wanted people to see that yes, Borno State is struggling, but there's still people living there and they're continuing their lives.
Fatty posts her photography on Bits of Borno, a website she's created. For many, it's become a source of inspiration and renewal. She has over 7,000 followers on her Facebook page, 9,000 on Instagram. What they see is another side of Borno State, a proud region showcasing the rich diversity of Nigeria's people.
I have to be highly inclusive in this visual storytelling, so I try as much as possible to document all of the tribes in the community, ensure that it represents the whole of Borno State. And the Shua tribe are a very beautiful, very colorful tribe. The portraits I do, I feel are, quintessential people of Borno State, and then I ask them questions about how life is. And then when I do a lot of the interviews, I transcribe, and then I post the images on social media together with the narratives.
In her regular job, Fatty works as a communications officer for UNICEF. Immersed in the Northeast's humanitarian crisis, she searches for moments of compassion and caring.
So I do a lot of human interest stories and photo essays, and I document all of UNICEF's activities so that we can post on social media. UNICEF has come in and done a lot for our people, and for me it's especially fulfilling to see that.
She's journeyed to areas where the war left its scars, looking deeper to document how people have survived the insurgency.
And what I've learned is that even in the midst of adversity, people are able to continue and move on. People do not stop because of a bomb blast. I gravitate to children because of their exuberance. Even when you find them in a situation that is really bad, they're very bubbly and very lively, and that kind of keeps me going. I photograph a lot of street children and homeless children as well, and a lot of children that are escaping Boko Haram. And you see them mostly by the river or under the bridge living on their own. But for these children, usually you kind of feel traumatized by their experience. You would wish for them to have a great future, but it will take a lot for them to have the kind of life that you would want for them. I just want people to know that, Boko Haram is a small percentage of people that are wreaking havoc on a community, and the majority of people from Borno State are very peace-loving, very hospitable, very highly intelligent individuals. We're the same as every average Nigerian. We just want to live our lives.
If Nigeria is to heal from the war, the country must recover the bonds of humanity within its people. One picture at a time, Fatty is bringing that humanity to light. Three years after Boko Haram kidnapped the Chibok girls, Buki Shonibare is still campaigning for their release. She posts photos on social media marking the days of their captivity, unwilling to let their plight fade from public memory. Even during her daily routines, the girls are never far from her thoughts.
Thank you. My major fear is by the time we have these girls come back, inevitably so, at least for the number that can come back, what life would they live for the rest of their lives? They've watched amputations happen in front of them. They've watched killings. They've watched draining of blood. They've watched airstrikes. They've watched people being buried in shallow graves. They've been abused. Some of them come back with children. How do you take those memories away from them?
While campaigning for the girls' release, Bukky is battling the militants on a second front, a brazenly symbolic one.
The Boko Haram faction is talking.
She launched a charity project called School in a Bag. It delivers backpacks loaded with writing materials to children who don't have them and instructional kits to teachers.
The best way to win against those that have abducted your children is to use other children as a perfect example and a perfect testimony and representation of a better life that can happen because education is there. We are telling Boko Haram that you lost, and we are winning.
April 14, 2017, marked the third anniversary of the Chibok kidnappings. At that time, only 21 Chibok girls had been freed. Then on May 7th, 1,120 days after being taken, 82 more girls were released. Elation erupted at Unity Square in Abuja, where Bring Back Our Girls campaigners have kept their long protest vigil.
The fact that we can have 82 of our girls come back is a validation of everything we have been doing here every day. So 106 girls out of 219 that we've been waiting for 3 years, 3 weeks, and 2 days today, they have come back. And that is a big deal.
News reports soon revealed that the release was part of a swap. In the exchange, the Nigerian government had freed several Boko Haram militants. But for Bukky, no price is too high to pay for the girls' freedom.
For the girls, it means life to them. There was a life they had before they were abducted. They were going to school. To them, it means I am coming back to civilization. I am coming back to life. I can breathe. I can sleep with my 2 eyes closed.
What does the future hold for Nigeria?
The future of Nigeria is actually not as bleak as people make it to be. I think it's really very important to understand that Boko Haram is not Nigeria, and Nigeria is not Boko Haram.
After 8 years of conflict, some 20,000 dead, and millions of lives disrupted, how does the nation move forward?
So we've got to remake our society. We've got to have justice. We've got to have inclusion. People must feel part of the state. There must be many platforms and spaces for youth to self-actualize. There've got to be other paths that children can feel that they can contribute to society.
In a country so rich in diversity, tribal, cultural, language, religion, a core humanity survives.
One thing I've found with Nigeria is that sometimes the country pushes itself to an edge, and at that edge, it pulls itself back, and things move. You know, someone told me a joke and said, it always seems as if the edge of uncertainty is Nigeria's comfort zone. When you think things are going to crumble, it always comes back together. And I think it's really the people in Nigeria. There is this can-do spirit in Nigeria. There's this spirit to thrive. There's this spirit to overcome the impossible in Nigeria.